Hey guys, it's Jeff with EUL Gaming, and if you're new to Tarkov, you've come to the right place. I want to welcome you all to the Tarkov Primer. This series is specifically designed to equip a brand new player to Tarkov with the information he or she will need to not only survive in what may be the most brutal shooter ever made, but also to flourish and become an above average player. Please keep in mind the date at which this video is posted to YouTube, however, as Tarkov is a constantly changing game. That being said, the fundamentals should stand the test of time. Let's get into episode 1 of the Tarkov Primer. At this point, you have purchased a copy of Escape from Tarkov, downloaded it and installed it, and you may now be sitting at the main menu wondering what the hell is going on. You may have loaded into a raid already, had a bad time, and now you've looked up this video. Whatever your situation may be, you're in the right place. Before we go into details, let me explain exactly what Tarkov is and what it isn't. Escape from Tarkov is, in extremely basic terms, a looter shooter. It incorporates all of the elements that typical first-person shooters have, such as hip fire and aimed firing, health, etc., and then expands upon those core features with additional elements for realism and immersion effect. For example, when you're shot, you do not only lose health, but you also develop bleeds or broken limbs that require different types of medical items to fix. It is also a looter, as one of your primary objectives in the game is to pick up or find items that are either valuable or needed to complete a quest or mission to advance your character. You then typically need to survive and leave the match with those items. If not, you'll have to start over again. What makes Tarkov such a hardcore game is that its gunplay is fairly realistic, and the guns typically have a lot more recoil and are harder to aim and shoot than typically more arcadey shooters. Also, Tarkov brings to the table a relatively unique gameplay mechanic where you need to purchase or find all of the gear your virtual soldier will bring into a raid, either by paying for it with virtual currency or trading for it with items you find. And if you die in raid, you lose every single item you bring with you. This mechanic will cause a constant undertone of tension in nearly every raid you're in. It's very easy to die, and the cost of death is high. This will cause players to move cautiously, strike fiercely, and use cunning and guile to try and trick or confuse you to gain the upper hand. I will not lie to you, the first few weeks and months of Tarkov will not be easy. The learning curve is steep. You will fail many times, but don't worry, that's completely normal. Over time, you will learn how to turn engagements in your favor, and the thrill of these victories combined with the fear of defeat is incredibly addicting. So now you know what Tarkov really is, let's cover some of the basics. In Tarkov, you can play essentially two different characters. Your main character is a PMC, or private military contractor. In real life, PMCs typically have some kind of former military service, but not always. They are highly trained operators that often have access to the latest gears and weapons that are available at that time. Your PMC's experience, skills, and objectives should be your number one priority. Your Scav, on the other hand, is a unique way to play the game with slightly less pressure. Your Scav will always have a random kit that ranges from low to sometimes mid-tier in quality. You cannot choose or exchange your Scav's kit unless your Scav dies. After a short cooldown, you'll have a new Scav to play as with a random kit and weapon. If you survive a raid as a Scav, you may transfer anything you've looted from your Scav over to your PMC's inventory. It's basically a way to get risk-free gear, items, and money. Your Scav also has its own level and skills that are separate from your PMC. Also, Scav gameplay is unique in that other AI Scavs will be completely neutral to your presence in raids, and they will not try to kill you unless you try to shoot at them first. Even some raiders and Scav bosses will tolerate your Scav a lot more than your PMC. It may be tempting to play your Scav more than your PMC, as you risk nothing. But as we'll get to later, you should resist the urge to only play as your Scav character, and you should absolutely focus on leveling up your main PMC character. Before we get ready for a raid, let's cover some more basics, starting with your inventory. From the main menu, click on Character, and this will open your stash. Your stash is essentially just a large container made up of cells. Small items sometimes only take up one cell, while others can take up dozens of cells in your stash space. You can move things around in your stash by clicking and holding an item, dragging it around, and releasing. To rotate an item, click and hold, then press R. It is very important that you keep your stash organized and optimized for space. It'll be a long time before you can afford some of the expensive containers that will free up more room in your stash. So after each raid, take a little time to organize and optimize your space utilization. We'll get into more advanced techniques for optimizing your stash in a future primer video, but for now, here's a few tips for freeing up stash space. Lots of guns have folding stocks. If you press the middle mouse button over a folding stock gun, it will fold the stock and make more space. Backpacks take up a lot of room, but you can put items inside of other items within the stash. Using the nesting egg technique on backpacks in your stash, put smaller backpacks in larger ones. You can keep every single backpack you own inside your largest backpack by doing this and save tons of room. Group similar items together so you can easily find them. Tarkov now has an auto sort feature in the lower left hand corner. This also works for most containers. In the beginning, feel free to use this feature to group items together, but it will not execute any space saving commands for you, such as folding stocks or nesting backpacks inside each other. Next, let's briefly go over the health system before going into a raid. Like most FPS games, your character has health that can be lost and regained by taking or healing damage. In addition to this, there are several health status effects that may require additional treatment. These are pain. Pain will slightly blur and pixelate your screen, making seeing fine details difficult. Many other health statuses will cause pain. To remove pain, use painkillers, Vaseline, Golden Star Balm, ibuprofen, Propital injector, morphine injector, or any other item that says it can remove pain. Fracture. This is a broken limb. It also causes pain, and after a short time it can also cause tremor. In a broken arm, it will significantly decrease your aim down sight time. It will also make your aim less steady. In a leg, you will walk with a slow limp and will be unable to run. This can be fixed with a splint, aluminum splint, or with a Serv 12 surgical kit. After a broken limb is splinted, the pain effect will typically subside. Note, if you use a painkiller, you'll be able to run on a fractured leg, but you will loudly yelp in pain with each stride and do a small amount of damage to your entire body with each step. Blacked limb, or also an obliterated limb. This is a body part that has lost all of its HP. A blacked limb can also have a fracture. It is similar to a fracture, but it can only be fixed with a surgical kit. Surgery is loud and takes a long time to perform, and once fixed, the limb will have less total HP once fixed via surgery. You also cannot fix a blacked thorax or head with surgery, only your limbs and stomach. A black stomach will significantly drain your energy and hydration until it's fixed, and a blacked thorax means almost certain death if you take any damage whatsoever to your chest. It is best to extract as soon as possible in this scenario. Your character will also cough and gasp if the stomach or thorax is very low health or blacked until painkillers are administered. Note, the CMS kit is small but restores significantly less HP per limb. The Serv 12 kit restores the most HP per limb. Bleeds. There are two types of bleeds, a light bleed and a heavy bleed. Light bleeds will slowly drain HP from a body area until the bleed is fixed with either a bandage, IFAK, Salewa, or Grizzly medical kit. Light bleeds should be ignored until you're out of danger or the fight is concluded, but should be dealt with as soon as it's safe to do so. Heavy bleeds are much more serious. These bleeds will decrease the HP of all body parts at a relatively fast pace. Your screen will also slowly pulse red to indicate the heavy bleed. In addition, your character will leave small puddles of blood everywhere he goes. So if you try to retreat and deal with the bleed, a savvy PMC or Scav could follow the trail to your hiding spot. If you are backed into a corner or room, being pushed, or have enemies in very close proximity, try to conclude the fight before healing a heavy bleed. But if the battle is becoming drawn out or the enemy is not pushing, try to find a way to retreat, barricade yourself, or have a buddy cover you while you fix the heavy bleed, as it will eventually kill you or significantly reduce your HP to the point where a single shot could kill your PMC. Heavy bleeds can be fixed with S-March tourniquets or hemostatic agents. They can also be fixed with an IFAK, Salewa, or Grizzly kit at significant cost to the total HP of that medical kit. If possible, use the tourniquet or hemostat first. These are the most common medical issues you might encounter in raids, but there are others that we'll cover in another video covering more advanced medical issues. We're getting close to starting your first raid, but first, let's take a look at the traders. Go ahead and hit the Trading tab in the main menu, or go to the Dealers tab in the lower right. You'll see a few different characters here, such as Prapper, Therapist, and Mechanic. All of these traders offer different types of weapons, armor, and useful items, but they may also have missions for you to perform. Click on each trader's portrait and then go to the upper left and click the Tasks tab. Accept any available missions and read the descriptions carefully. These tasks range from go fetch missions to killing players or scavs on certain maps or with certain weapons. Sometimes you need to acquire a quest item on one map and then take it to another map and plant it somewhere. Keep in mind, when you are new to the game, all of these tasks can seem extremely difficult. I would highly recommend Googling the Escape from Tarkov wiki. The wiki is an excellent resource for pointing out where things are or advising which order to complete tasks. Some tasks are much easier in a group, while others are best solo, so feel free to reach out to other members of our Discord if you're struggling with a certain task. Completing tasks can reap massive rewards such as money, weapons, high-end armor, and sometimes even free skill levels. And if you complete every quest in the game, you'll be awarded the Kappa container, which is the largest secure container in the game. Any items inside this container will not be lost if you die. Some people choose to ignore quests, but I found that completing quests will vastly improve your Tarkov experience and make purchasing many types of guns and ammo a lot cheaper. There are even guns, armors, and ammo types that are locked behind quests, so they're definitely worth doing. You will also notice that all of the items that traders have to offer are grayed out. This basically means that your PMC character is encountering this item for the first time and needs to examine it. You can manually examine items by clicking them and selecting Examine, but a much quicker way is to simply press the middle mouse button on the item that needs to be examined. Some items cannot be picked up or interacted with until they've been examined, including while in raid, so make sure you do this. Traders have one more unique feature, which is the barter system. You don't always have to pay rubles for items. You can trade commonly found items with dealers to obtain high-end gear. Some trades are simple, such as one fluorescent light bulb in exchange for one RGD hand grenade. Or you can trade 2 level 4 USEC armors, some Cordura, and some Aramid to get a slick plate carrier, one of the best armors in the game at level 6 armor. Don't worry, we'll cover armor and ammunition in a future episode if you don't know what that means. The very last thing to cover before going into raid is using the offline mode. This is a mode where you can explore the map with or without the AI trying to kill you. You can also select the amount and difficulty of the AI. There will be no players in this mode. Anything you bring into offline raids cannot be lost, and any items you pick up cannot be added to your stash. Using offline is a great way to rehearse a quest, so when you're in a real raid you'll know exactly what to do. Take the task Checking, for example, which is one of the first quests you'll get. You'll need to retrieve a bronze pocket watch from a locked truck on customs. You can practice retrieving this in offline mode before doing it live so you know exactly where it is and what keys to have. You can practice retrieving this in offline mode before doing it live so you'll know exactly where it is, what keys to have, and you're not wasting any time trying to find the item you're looking for. With this information, I think you're ready to go into your first raid, so let's get you outfitted. In the beginning, you're going to have access to very few guns, attachment, and ammunition choices. Depending on which version of the game you purchased, you may have very little in your stash to choose from, or your stash might be full of amazing shit. Before I begin, keep in mind that this starting kit is just a suggestion. You can modify this kit any way you see fit depending on what gear you already have, the size of your secure container, and if you're a bearer or USEC PMC, as each type of PMC starts with different items and guns. This is my USEC PMC exactly as he's outfitted from the start of a brand new standard account. Since he is a USEC, he has an M4 equipped instead of the AK that a bear would get. I want to level up my traders and skills before I risk losing an M4, so I'm going to opt for one of these MP5s instead. They have extremely low recoil even without attachments, and since we're likely to encounter fairly geared players, we need a high amount of accuracy so that we can hopefully hit them in the face. In Tarkov, getting shot in the face with almost any bullet in the game will instantly kill another player. We're going to keep the P.A.C.A vest on, but we're going to remove the commando rig and buy a bank robber from Ragman instead. Just like with the M4, we're not trying to risk big gear in our first raid. We're going to bring a few extra magazines with us as well as an extra stack of ammo in our secure container so we can top off magazines in raid. Unfortunately, with the basic account we weren't given any surgery kits, so hopefully we'll find one in raid, otherwise we'll put that in our secure container. For now, we'll put the car medical kit in there. This is a more heavy duty medical kit than our AI2s, and they can also stop light bleeds. Lastly, even though we have painkillers in our pockets, we're going to put a Vaseline painkiller in our secure container. These last longer than the standard painkillers, and we want to have them in case we're in raid for a long time. We're going to leave the AI2s, painkillers, bandages, and splint in our pockets, as this will cover most of our medical needs. We don't have any helmets yet, so we're just going to wear our hat. In Tarkov, helmets absolutely can save your life, but it's usually unlikely. If you're short on cash, a helmet is about the least helpful piece of equipment you can bring into a raid. Once we get more rubles, we'll try to wear a helmet whenever we can. Lastly, you'll notice that there's a slot for some tactical headphones. These devices will lower ambient noise like wind or rain, somewhat muffle your own gunshots, and make detecting soft sounds like running or walking easier. These are absolutely critical pieces of equipment. I would rather not wear chest armor than leave behind a set of headphones. They are that important. Hearing someone moving clearly can and absolutely will make the difference between life and death in Tarkov, so try to never forget them. There are many different headsets in the game, and they all sound slightly different. When we get more money and level up our traders, we can try out different ones. But for now, if we lose our Comtac 2s, we can get a set of cheap GSSH headphones from the dealer Ragman. This is a fairly standard beginner's loadout. Keep in mind that despite all this knowledge you now have and all this gear you've spent time putting together, your PMC could die within minutes of spawning and you might lose all of it. But gear doesn't just disappear into thin air. You can get gear back if you insure it. Before deploying to a raid, you have the option to insure any or all of the gear you bring with you. If an insured item is not taken by another player, you'll get that gear back, besides any ammunition, within a day or two. I personally insure all gear every time, but it does cost money, so you can pick and choose which items are the most important. Some will only insure gear when they play in teams, as their buddies can hide their gear in a bush or hidden spot where nobody is likely to find it, maximizing your chances of getting an insurance return. We'll go more into insurance and insurance fraud when we get into more advanced techniques. You're now ready to enter your first raid. Tarkov is not easy. It will chew you up and break you down before you really start to enjoy the game, but this is all very normal. But if you enjoy a challenge, you'll grow with the game, and I promise you that we can turn you into an above average player by the time this series concludes. In the next episode, we're going to cover basic combat and other in-raid activities, so keep an eye out for that. I'm Jeff with EUL Gaming, and thanks for watching. But before we go, here's a quick channel update. You might have noticed that we haven't uploaded in a while. As some of you may know, I've been in the process of moving into a new house, which is finally done. Once I got the keys to the house, I was excited to start making content again, only to find there was undiscovered water damage in the room that was going to be my gaming and production room. It was a long and costly affair, but we finally got it all sorted out and fixed. So that's basically the long and short of it. From now on, you can expect new content on a regular basis, including the stream starting up again soon. Thanks for hanging in there with me, and thank you so much for watching.